We are live.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I have the pleasure of introducing you to someone who is not known in the public eye as far as the general public is concerned, but ask any industry player, and he is a giant who stands behind most industry technologies. His name is Ravichandran Purushothaman. He's the president of Danfoss India, and he has been with Danfoss India for a long time, both at the international level and as the domestic level. And why everyone knows things like refrigerator players like Blue Star, like Godrej, like Carrier, the technologies behind the refrigeration is there with Danfoss. Danfoss is the world's largest company in this sector. And when you look at Danfoss, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Danfoss because Ravichandran will explain Danfoss to you. He will talk about how we can enable a greening revolution, a greening transformation in India. He has been the president of Danfoss India, Danfoss Industries Private Limited since 2013. Danfoss is a 100% subsidiary of Danfoss Denmark, and the rest I shall leave to Ravi himself. Ravi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bhaskar, and thank you for inviting me this afternoon on a very important subject. I do hope and believe at the end of this session, we would like to leave you with some good thoughts about what India holds up in the future when it comes to why we believe what we believe. So with those opening words, I kind of like to structure my talk this afternoon into three buckets. One is talk a little bit about who we are, what we are as a company, and what we are here for, and what's that we offer to the country and the whole world. Second is to pick on how India is going to deliver on the sustainable development goals. And specifically on that theme, look at two components of it. One is on the energy side, and the other one is on the food side, actually. When we talk of food, of course, I would be talking a lot about agriculture and more around horticulture and the perishables. And then finally, leave you all with some important, inspiring areas that we should focus when we want to become a $5 or a $10 trillion economy. So this is how we would like to share this afternoon. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, your screen is visible and you are perfect.
Yeah. So let me first start with who we are. And, we are a family-owned company born in the southern part of Denmark. We basically have globalized over the last 70, 80 years in a very formidable way. And today we are here where we engineer solutions, where we try and do more with less and build a world which is far more sustainable and leave a better planet for our next generation. And that's really what we are all about. When you look at what Danfoss offers, we primarily have structured our business into three segments, we call. One is the hydraulics business, and the second one is around what I call as the climate solutions. And then the third one is what I call as the Danfoss drives business, basically. When you look into the world today, we offer quite a lot of solutions into the construction industry, into the general heavy industry, into forestry, into agriculture, climate solutions, in district heating, cooling, residential heating, automotive, brewery. We are there everywhere. And yes, we are kind of hidden behind quite a lot of machines and equipments that are operating. What are the markets we serve? Primarily, when you look at, is somebody changing the slides or?
Yes. We've got the right slide.
Okay, can you go to the fifth one, please? Yeah, fifth slide, actually. I'm on the fifth one. Yeah, so Sorry, stay there, please. Yeah. So when you look at the areas that we are actually impacting the world, we help buildings reduce energy consumption. We help industries reduce energy consumption. We make sure that we are ensuring that the transportation and mobility sector is using less of energy. Water and energy has a very strong nexus. So we make sure that we use less energy for making sure that pumping is more efficient. And then, of course, when it comes to marine and refrigeration and air conditioning as well, we have very, very special technologies. The unique thing about Danfoss is that, while we have been working on these sectors for the last 70, 80 years, some of our products are actually in its sixth or seventh generation. That's the kind of DNA we possess because we put in a lot of innovation into our products. Almost 6 to 8% of our sales year on year is invested into R&D. And the domain expertise that we hold in this area is quite remarkable. Next, please. When you look into the global megatrends, the electrification is something that we are clearly seeing is becoming an important part of our daily life. We all know that climate change since the Paris Agreement has gained significant momentum both in India and rest of the world. Food supply is no-brainer where we today lose about 1/3 of what we produce between the farm and the supermarket. And of course, urbanization is a major, major topic across the world. And in India specifically, when we come down, we talk a little bit about the smart cities. And then, of course, digital is changing the world. We kind of live, we kind of actually embrace digital in different pockets. And it is becoming more or less like a resource liberating force into several of the areas. Next, please. So when you look around, what is our own medicine that we take for ourselves, and where I think Danfoss today has committed on a climate strategy where we go to the next slide, please. We have said that by 2030, we will be carbon neutral. All our Danfoss factories shall be carbon neutral by 2030. And as I speak, 4 months in 2020, the Chennai campus was carbon neutral. That's the kind of focus that we have. We have a campus today in Chennai, which is got very close to water neutrality. We collect rainwater for 4 months and use it for 9 months. 70 to 80% of the energy that we consume is coming from renewables. Solar, we have a 1.2 megawatt set up in the campus. We also have about 3 to 4 megawatt power we produce from the wind we use in our campus. We have also a storage facility where we store energy coming from solar on Saturdays and Sundays when there are less people working in the facility, and use it for the rest of the week. So we've done quite a lot of formidable things that helps us to kind of get to carbon neutrality. Not only that, globally we have about 28,000 employees, and many of them are coming to office in vehicles which are oil driven. So we want to convert them all into electric by 2030. And that's another big commitment that we have placed on ourselves as well. More importantly, go to the next slide, please. More importantly, why we do all this basically. It's basically making a strong business sense. When you look at energy efficiency in my world, it is probably the first fuel that everybody has in front of us. And we just need to harness it. We just need to apply the right technologies and really take advantage of it. The second, I think this is something we can significantly contribute to leave a better planet for our next generation, because quite a lot of things that we want to do here is also about how do we use less of the resources that is available in the world and still get the benefits that we want to get for human mankind. And of course, we have ourselves committed to several initiatives across the world, whether it's the RE100, the EP100, or the EV100. So these are some of the collaborative platforms where industry has come together to make a significant change for the future. For the next, please. Now, when we look at our business, when today we talk about companies becoming ESG, we have been doing business which is sustainable for the last 80 plus years. We work on energy efficiency as a business, and it's a significant job creator. When you look at our company, we make products that helps companies, countries, individuals save energy. And more importantly, by doing that, we have created 28,000 jobs. As an example, go back, please. We have created 28,000 jobs. Uh, Similarly, I think what we have also seen over the years is that there is a significant amount of nexus between water and energy. So when you actually want to fix water, you also have to fix energy and water together. When you want to fix heating and cooling, you have to fix both together so that you can take full advantage of it. So sector coupling is another big focus area for us as we embark on the next phase of energy footprint and energy redefinitions, actually. And then lastly, I think mobility is one of the biggest polluters as far as for climate change is concerned. And transportation accounts for almost 20% of the global energy. And here we have significant technologies, including storage, including charging, as well as including electric powertrains for quite a lot of mobility applications. So fundamentally, we are offering all of this to our customers and really helping our customers to do things in a much more energy efficient way. So next, please. When we look at the future post-COVID, when every country, including India, we want to come out of what I call as the green transition, we have done remarkable work over the last several decades of how we have helped individuals, companies, buildings, hospitals, metro stations, quite a number of applications where we have helped our customers save quite a lot of carbon emission. And also we have done remarkable stuff for our customers, which has helped them to be sustainable, not just as a company, but also creates a lot of cash flow and bottom line to our customers as well. So I think all in all, what I would like to stress here is that we have a great opportunity by deploying technology with the right skill. We have a great ambition as far as India is concerned, when India is kind of coming out of COVID and wants to become a $5 trillion economy. Go to the next one, please. So when you look at our footprint, we have about 1,650 employees. We have 2 sales offices. Most of our employees work from home. Of course, this was even since 2012. So COVID was not something which was dramatic for us because we already had a lot of people working from home for the last 9 years. We have 3 factories. Chennai is where I'm sitting right now and talking to you all. We have a factory in Pune and we also have a factory in Baroda. We also operate out of several resellers because India is a large continent and we have an 80-city strategy when it comes to India, because India's GDP is not in the cities, it is actually in the tier 2 and tier 3 parts of India as well. Next, please. So coming to what I believe the topic for today is about the green restart and why India should embrace green restart. I think when you look at the last 70 plus years, the way we have actually created our economy or generated our whole industry evolution, we have done quite a lot of things right, but at the same time, we probably need to look at what we could do differently going forward. And one of the things which we should do differently going forward is we need to decouple energy and GDP as one big subject. When you measure energy to GDP, clearly, I think we as a country have done pretty well the last 20 years, ever since we had the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and quite a lot of initiatives have been taken around on the PAT schemes, and many of the large industries have really done remarkable work in reducing the energy intensity. But however, when India wants to move from the $2.5 trillion to a $5 trillion or a $10 trillion economy, one of the important things we need to understand is we need to decouple energy requirement to GDP output. This is very, very important. And I have some prescriptions for that on how we need to do that going forward. Go to the next one, please. So let me start with where India is at the moment and why I see that India has a great opportunity when you look around post-COVID. Firstly, on urbanization, I think it is no-brainer that cities are almost accounting for 60 to 70% of the carbon emissions, and also what I call as the largest energy-consuming pockets of the nation. And when you look in most of the cities, except, for example, for COVID, there has been a bit of reverse migration, but cities still account for a large number of population, and we will continue to see a lot more cities becoming bigger. And I truly believe India would have at least about 80 to 100 cities, which would be having a population of more than 7 to 8 million in the future. So what is important is that how do we make cities livable? I think this is one of the important aspects we need to consider. And city is also where the maximum GDP is getting created, actually. So when I see what India has done well, I think whether it is the ECBC codes or whether it is the Bureau of Energy Efficiency or nationally, I think there has been a lot of initiatives around bringing initiatives to kind of regulatory requirements and deploying them in different areas so that energy consumption is kind of optimized. But I think we have to move to what I call cities need to compete on a different level, actually. Today, we talk about ease of doing business per state. But I think in the future, when you want to really look at urbanization becoming a major challenge for climate change as well as for energy, because, India is coming from a different point of departure to other countries. So we really need to make sure that we need to decouple our energy requirement to what GDP aggregation would happen in the future. And we can only do that in a couple of smart ways. The first thing what we probably need to do is that we need to make cities compete on energy to GDP. If a city is generating 70,000 crores of GDP, we need to measure how much of the city is consuming energy. And this way, we need to benchmark cities on energy to GDP so that cities start to compete on energy to GDP. Because this is a very important way of making cities participate and leaving a better environment in the city, which is very, very important and make cities more livable, actually. I think the second important aspect that I would consider is that, in every state, when you look at our country, I mean, in each of the states, there is a state development authority. And the state development authority clearly needs to take ownership of driving, the energy requirement to GDP in that particular state. Of course, incentives is something that the state should drive, where individuals, buildings, companies, manufacturing units, all of them need to move towards carbon neutrality. But I think while we need the carrot and stick model, but I also think that while we have a lot of technologies available for embracing decarbonization, I think the mechanism of incentivizing the individuals and the policy initiatives around making people absorb technologies that can help mitigate energy reduction, I think this is something we have not really seen proliferation of it. So I do believe post-COVID, I think we should put more onus on the state development authorities and make the cities be accountable for energy consumption and thereby, make cities compete. So this is very, very important when really want to move towards $5 trillion economy. The reason I say this is, I think India has to fix a twin energy challenge. One challenge we have is providing energy access for all. And that's a humongous challenge that anyway we are executing. And of course, we had an ambitious goal of making energy access for all by 2022. And even if we make it happen by 2023 or 2024, that's really still remarkable. The second important thing is our energy basket also has to change, because 70% of the energy that we today consume is coming from oil and coal related. So we need to really flip that around over the next 30, 40 years to make sure that we are actually moving more towards renewable and more towards a sustainable form of energy. So while we want to do all of this, the core that is in front of us, which is what I call as the first fuel, is energy efficiency. And this is something which we can do today. We don't need anything dramatic because technologies are available to actually embrace energy efficiency, and this just requires a higher degree of application, funding, and incentive to do things actually. So when it comes to energy part, I think urbanization and getting cities right and getting cities livable and making sure we fix the city's energy requirement is a very, very important path in our $5 or $10 trillion way forward, actually. And the second important thing that I consider where India needs to focus moving forward is, go to the next one, is on the food side, actually. When you look at, can I go to the next slide, please? When we look at the food supply, as many of you know, we produce about 330 million tons of horticulture produce, and most of our horticulture is of perishable in nature. But some of the startling numbers, which I think publicly is available, is that only 8 to 9% of the food that we produce is processable variety. So how do you actually add value to the farmer? And value capture can only happen if you can actually extend the shelf life of the produce. And the most important impediment for expanding the shelf life is the supply chain network that exists between the farm and the fork, actually. While a lot of studies have shown a lot of stuff is needed in India, but you know, what is really missing in my view is really the business model. While we have tried to fix quite a lot, 20 years back, we said food retail will drive this, but food retail has never driven supply chain, actually. Simply because we have not fixed the back end first to fix the front end, actually. So you just can't get the front end in place and then try and fix the back end, because this is something which is a horizontal challenge that we have. It's not something that you can fix at one end of the chain and the other end gets fixed. No. You need to fix across the horizontal chain, every part of that chain, so that the full chain is a business model, because end of the day, it's the cash flow. So processing becomes very important. And the second important thing is, India's consumerism is very different from the rest of the world. And when we want to fix food supply chain, we are in a country where fresh is considered as, something good for health. And in my view, after COVID, actually, fresh is the new frozen in some form and shape, actually. So when you look around the food supply chain, there is several intermediaries needs to be fixed. And here again, I think we really need to put in quite a lot of state-driven initiatives, cluster-driven initiatives, and make sure that we are actually building the business models. And we've seen that in the last 20 years that we have worked with, that the farmer producer organizations are a great example of how we can bring transformation. But this is only one set of opportunity there. There are many other set of opportunities that we need to do. And in all of this, what we have realized is, when you go down, whether it is in the milk industry, when you go down, whether it's in the marine industry, when you go down, whether it is in the grapes or oranges or mangoes, actually, energy has to be disrupted. And when you go down into the rural parts of India, there's enough amount of solar. So technologies have to be built for India. Technologies have to be innovated for India. And that's exactly what we have done over the last 7-10 years now, that we have developed a lot of India-centric products, which actually disrupts not only the energy footprint, but also enhances the shelf life of the produce, so that the farmer is able to actually get a longer value and a longer, better pricing in terms of connecting to the markets as well. But again, here, I would say that it is only that we have solved the tip of the iceberg. A lot more needs to be done in terms of food supply chain. Just to give you some perspective, go to the next slide, please. This is a very important industry and it is not very well understood. Cold chain touches almost 9 or 8 important sustainable development goals. And it is a less understood topic in India. And therefore, I'm reiterating it that, cold chain is often considered more as a supply chain to fix something what farmers have. No, it is not. It is much beyond that. It actually touches a lot more in terms of providing the nutrition value for all our young population. And more importantly, a cold supply chain is the mother of all highways. It is where your food flows, it is where your vaccine flows, it is where your medical, pharmaceutical, everything flows. Even a chicken needs a vaccine and it has to have an established cold chain. So it is something like having a national highway which has to be available so that all the 1.2 billion people get benefited out of it. It is as important as a lifeline, actually, for all purposes, and something I believe we need to recognize it and put more focus and high priority in the future as we go along. And of course, it is also an energy intensive, but there are great examples of what we have done where we have also disrupted the energy requirement of the cold chain industry. Go to the next one, please. More importantly, what we are grappling with in the horticulture sector is, the next one, please, is this particular topic which I wanted to bring you all. I think, basis the government projections, actually, between now and the next decade, I potentially see we need a lot of pack houses, because one of the simple things farmers miss as an opportunity is any of the producers, we don't grade them as A, B, C quality. The more companies, more FPOs have started grading, they've got a better price realization. So we need to build pack houses across every villages, which is very, very important. And India needs, as per the estimate done by government, about 125,000 pack houses. We need more reefer trucks flowing from point A to point B. That's a big shortage we have as infrastructure. And of course, the cold storages is something which is already there, but we have a different mix of that. But we probably need a lot more different mix in the future. And again, we also need to know, farmers should know for whom to produce, how much to produce, when to produce, where to harvest, how much to harvest. Because that's another piece of stuff that we need to work with the farmer community and actually help them and demystify some of these scientific things that is in front of us, and use technology, digital, and help them to kind of provide the best interventions that can create significant value and in turn actually a higher income as well. So I think this is a great opportunity in front of us, and I truly believe if we do this, I think India has a great potential to be the food factory of the world. And I have no doubts about it, that when you look at the varieties of horticulture crops that India has, we have really not harvested the great opportunity that India presents in terms of value capture of our horticulture. And you take every commodity that is there, if you start to process, if you start to actually add value, if you start to actually do branding, you can actually do a lot more than what we can think of and imagine. And I truly believe at some point in time in 2030 or 2040, agriculture combined with what is currently available as production links in PLI scheme that the government has come up with more and more mechanization getting into agriculture, with more and more startups moving into agriculture, I think this whole ecosystem of marriage between manufacturing, agriculture, and startups, potentially we will see what is today 17% of the GDP. When India moves towards a $5 or a $7.5 trillion, this is where India needs to focus, and this is where India is going to win. And this is where I'm very bullish will change the face of India in the next 10, 20 years. And I'm very optimistic that India will, in the future, become the food factory of the world. And I think this is exactly what we are trying to do with several of our customers and also helping several of our farmers. Of course, as I said, we have just started the journey 10 years back. We have a long haul on this, but I'm very hopeful in 2 decades we can get there. Coming to the last part, what I wanted to share, very important is that, whether it is energy efficiency, whether it is the cold chain industry, technology is available. And as I said at the start of my presentation, a company like Danfoss has been innovating on these products for the last 70 years. So we have 7.0, 8.0 versions, which are even more energy efficient what was 50 years back and 30 years back. More importantly, what we are missing in India is we need to engage with universities. We need to engage with young population in the universities. We need them to come and jointly look at the problem that we are facing in the Indian scenario, work with the universities. And companies like us have done it. I'll show you some examples. Can I move to the next slide? We have taken some of the farmers' problems to Indian Institute of Science. We have taken to the dairy development boards. We have worked along with CII platforms. We have taken the farmer issues on bananas to the Banana Research Foundation. And every time we went there and we collaborated, we saw a success. And I think what I would like to leave you all with very, very important thought is that industry and university needs to have a continuing marriage of relationship and research, because you simply can't come with a global know-how and a knowledge and try and solve an Indian problem. An Indian problem has to be kind of taken to a university and helped to really demystify what the problem is. And I can tell you there are great minds in our universities, and they really have great ideas to solve, which is very different from what it has been solved in Europe or other parts of the world. So I think putting more money on R&D, putting more money on hackathons, putting more money on startups, and putting more money on universities has truly paid off for us for the last 10 to 12 years. Another important thing, apart from engaging with universities and doing research work with universities, transferring skill is very, very important. And this is something we have realized over the last 2 decades. Go to the next slide, please. Be it a farmer, be it a technician, go to the next slide, please. Be it a farmer, be it a technician, what we have seen is that in several of the skilling initiatives that we have taken, every time we have done something, it has actually brought us far more rewarding outcomes. And what we need to do is to really scale it up. I think there are several platforms of skilling, but I think for me, if the technology is available and if it is not rightly used in an application where skill becomes very critical, your outcomes may be very different. So skilling becomes extremely, extremely important. And I think we as a company have realized the right skills applied on the right technology as an extraordinary outcome. And that's why we truly believe that we were able to disrupt the energy footprint of several of our industries and customers that we work with. And I truly believe many companies in India need to put more money on R&D, work with more universities, put more emphasis on skill, because skill today is, you can't create a strong result or outcome unless you have a very strong skill set, in the industry and in our farming sector or in the energy efficiency sector. And lastly, what I want to tell you all is that both the areas, whether it is energy efficiency or the farm sector, one of the important things we need to recognize is this is a great job creator. Energy efficiency alone can actually create more than 1 million jobs for us. And it's a completely different set of job profile. And I'm sure this is a great opportunity for us, which we should not miss. So is agriculture. And here we need a very different set of jobs to be created here, because these are jobs where we need to create for mechanization of farms, for the cold rooms, for managing the art and science of storing, because not many of them know that a particular commodity needs 4 degrees and a banana needs 11 degrees, and milk requires X amount of temperature, meat requires Y amount of temperature. So the art and science of storing, these are all very simple skills, but I think a lot more needs to be done here. And if only we do it right, I think we have a great opportunity. Why $5 trillion is doable. And if only we kind of be smart enough to execute this very well at a state level, we can really harvest the full potential of India. So I think I want to end here and look for some questions, Bhaskar, if that's fine with you. But
in fact, the questions have started coming in.
Before I wind up, I would like to come to the last slide, which I want to leave you with my thoughts. Go to the next one, please. Last slide. So that's my concluding slide, and I will take up questions after that, Bhaskar.
Okay.
Next one, please. So I think way forward, I look at 5 pillars. I think whatever we do in terms of energy or food, sustainability should be the core of it. I think we should look at efficiency. And as I said, we should even look at how do we bring energy to GDP as a big measurement for us. Safety and security is another big aspect we tend to ignore. Because when you deal with quite a lot of technology, safety and security is extremely important. And policy interventions need to be very timely, and skill is the other pillar actually. So I truly believe that these 5 pillars would clearly help India meet its energy crisis in a much more sustainable manner. And of course, India has the great potential of becoming the food factory of the world. And combined, I think we can really create a green restart for India post-COVID. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi, for such a panoramic view of what is possible and what we need to do. And I just want to ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that you see that you will have to face in India in the coming couple of years?
I think the challenge really in India is about the war for talent, right? I mean, talent becomes very important. See, you can have great products, but end of the day, if you don't have great people, so talent is really one where we are putting a lot of focus. And that's why I said that, we need to work very young with the universities. We need to work with the young minds. So talent is really one important thing that we see as a major challenge going forward. Second important thing we see is that when you look at the rate of change of implementation in India, I think we have seen we have great policy frameworks, but when it comes to execution, we still have less appetite for faster, agile execution actually. And if only we do our execution right, we would have been really getting the full potential that India offers to any company or any state actually. So I think execution of what we set for ourselves and talent war is another important criteria actually.
Okay, if these are the 2 major challenges that you see, what would you like the government to do? Now, there are 2 parts to it. Like you mentioned, that you are working with several universities in South India and across India. Do you think the government could play a role here?
I think government should actually incentivize companies that is putting a lot of investment into universities, right? I mean,
Yes.
we should be treating university investments, and that should be kind of it should be a carrot that the government should offer for us to work more and more with universities. The second important thing is, when you take energy efficiency as a topic, while we have excellent policy making at the national government, the execution is a challenge on the state government actually. Now, for example, we have the State Development Authority, and they need to be made accountable for energy to GDP in a city, for example. We have these smart cities, right? I mean, smart cities, one of the important parameter for a smart city should be is that how much of GDP are you generating for what amount of energy you consume? Because energy is not coming cheap. Energy is what is creating the climate change challenges also. So you really need to tie energy to GDP, and you need to make the state development authorities more accountable. And there, I think the state should also incentivize, whether it is a citizen who goes for a solar panel in his house, they should also incentivize a manufacturing company which puts money on something which is renewable. They should also incentivize a company like ours who have got everything on. We don't even consume 1 unit. For 4 months, we didn't consume 1 unit from coal or oil. So, there has to be both carrot and stick model that works very well, actually. So sometimes we tend to use more of policy and less of carrot, actually. So a right balance of that is very important.
Yes. So effectively, you would like energy to be measured in terms of GDP, whether it's a state or the village or every other area.
Every other area. I think energy to GDP, it should be one measurement where I think every citizen will understand why we talk what we talk.
Okay. If energy to GDP has to be the measurement, obviously the government will have to craft policies, A, for measuring them, we don't measure them, and B, for creating incentives and disincentives. Do
True. As for example, there's a lot of talk about cross-border carbon tax as an example.
correct.
Now, end of the day, why do developed countries want to go after carbon tax? Simply because they want to limit climate change, right? Because the biggest polluter is coming from energy, right? The use of energy and the related pollution. Now, if you have that state development focus where they put more impetus on energy to GDP, we actually tend to be more competitive.
Yes.
As a nation, as an individual, as a state, as a city, as an industry body, or as a building. So your mindset starts changing, because end of the day, even if you want to put a tax on something that is more polluting, nobody will buy a product because it's highly taxed, because it's highly polluting. So we need to change the mindset, and that can only come from more state initiative and not really a central initiative, right?
Very true. Very true. Okay. So if this is the case, shouldn't we also encourage the government to call people like you to more and more colleges across the country to drive home the message, so that students in turn create the pressure on legislators?
Well, I think you see there is certainly that is also doable, but I think by sharing practices, there are very great examples or lighthouse projects that India has also done in terms of energy efficiency. But what is more important is that it has not actually reached all the stakeholders. So you're right that we need to do a lot more of it. But today, I think you have different ways of reaching it, right? You have actually, from our point of view, let me tell you, we did a different program for more than 6 years. We used to compete buildings on energy efficiency, and we used to call it as the ACREX Hall of Fame. And what we do annually is we make buildings compete on energy efficiency. And we take buildings which have been operating for more than 2 years. We take the data of the building and do a scientific benchmarking of the buildings. And then we declare which is the iconic building that has been the best building in India, which is more energy efficient. Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport in Mumbai was the first awardee for us. So like this, we have year after year, we have started making buildings compete on energy. The idea behind that is there is a forum, you compete, you come and learn what the others have done. It's the best practice sharing. Knowledge starts to flow, and then many of them get inspired and they go back and make another building even more iconic, actually. So this is one of the initiatives we did. And of course, we did the same thing for cold chain, right? I mean, we wanted to build the most energy efficient cold chain. And so we made cold chains compete on energy footprint as well. So there are, of course, you're right, but we talk about things what we have done, but we need to do a lot more so that it reaches a lot more, actually. We also have done a student hackathon. We went to a university and looked at, went from our R&D guys, went and said, guys, come on, we have these problems. How can you do it? And I can tell you, these brilliant minds in 48 hours came up with brilliant ideas, which I'm sure even our R&D colleagues could take probably 2 years to come up with those ideas. So it's a lot more we need to do. But, the mechanism of doing this is not that easy, right? I mean, you need to build a strong relationship. And I think, in a country where you put less investment into university industry interaction, you get less. But if you put more, you get more. So I think we need to increase that momentum, in my view.
Okay. One last question here. You've done some remarkable things, like you said, in banana, in the grapes industry. In the grapes industry, what exactly do you do? Because that's directly relevant to the state.
So I think whether it is banana or grapes, basically what we have tried to do is, basically there are 3 important interventions needed in any horticulture product. First is pre-harvest practices. How much water you use, how do you use less of natural resources, how do you look at the yield, what is the kind of right fruit care technology you need so that you don't lose fruits as they grow. So there's a lot on the pre-harvest technologies, what we call as the generally accepted practices in agriculture, GAP. So this is something which we need to do knowledge transfer. So there we need to collaborate with universities, with the companies who are very good at this, and bring them to the farmers and educate the farmers so that they do it in the right way, so that, you know, the art and science of growing is something very different. Second important thing is, after you harvest something, and you need to really understand how do you need to clean them, how do you need to grade them, how do you need to sort them. And as I said to you, because we have very low processing levels, some of these producers have got some damages. They are good products, but they've got some small damages. So because it can't be processed in the next 24 hours, it gets wasted actually. And you can't reach them in the next 24 hours, 48 hours to the nearest selling point also. So we have to look at how to increase processing, how to make sure that the graded ones, the better price realization happens. How do you do the right pre-cooling? You know, the temperatures are very different for grapes, to bananas, to pomegranates, to apples, to mangoes, to oranges. So the art and science of storing, and what is the right way of, even, you know, for example, bananas, you need to actually cut them and take all the waste in the farm. They come and dump it in the vegetable market in the cities. And actually cities, you can't recycle them actually. So a lot of small practices need to be changed actually. The mindset of how we do things need to be changed actually. Yes. So we have done a lot of interventions on the post-harvest side. Then more important is branding. You know, branding and market connectivity is very important. You should know who wants at what time, what products. And the art and science of connecting it is very, very important, because price realization is also very important actually. So the A grade should really go to who's willing to pay the premium price. For example, the same bananas, if you want to sell in Hosur and Bangalore may have 30% more price than Hosur, you know. So the farmer can actually do this in Hosur and do that one in Bangalore for better price realization. So you can see these three buckets, and you know, this is something, it's a transformation of everybody's mindset first, bringing in the right skill sets, experimentation. We will fail a couple of times. We need to stand up and walk and then start running. Then you start running faster. And that's how you actually come out or overcome all of this actually. So it's a long journey. It just can't be done overnight actually. So I think working horizontal on horticulture actually yielded very good results for us.
Excellent. Thank you, Ravi, for being with us and giving us this amazing perspective, which many people don't have, and they don't get the opportunity to have either.
Well, I do hope and believe that, we truly believe that, the kind of opportunity India presents, be it the energy transition, the energy efficiency opportunity, and India becoming the food factory of the world, at least in the next 15 to 20 years, I'm very hopeful that we will get there. Okay. And I do believe at some point in time, by 2030, 2035, agriculture will not anymore be looked upon as only 17% of GDP. It would be certainly looked upon as a very, very large part of our GDP. And if we don't make agriculture win, India doesn't win.
Which is exactly the message that we need to drive home again and again and again. Yes. But thank you. Thank you, Ravi, for coming over. Thank you very much for giving us this vision. And if there's anything that we can do, either as a newspaper or the college, to promote your vision, please let us know.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A pleasure having you.
Thank you.